Connecticut looks calm, old, orderly, but what's buried here was never meant to be remembered. Trembling silences, doors that never officially existed, hallways where time refuses to enter, and forests no one walks through anymore because whatever went in didn't come back the same. These aren't modern myths or recycled ghost stories, they're files, names, real places. Today you'll walk through 6 stories so forgotten that the land itself tries to stop them from being told. But now that you hit play, they already know you're listening. Dudleytown, the cursed village that vanished from the map. Dudleytown isn't a made-up name, it's not a creepypasta, it's not a metaphor. It was a real village, founded in the 18th century in Cornwall, Connecticut, by settlers from the Dudley family. The place never grew. It sank. No standing houses remain, only moss-covered stones, fences swallowed by trees, and a kind of silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels intentional. For a while, people believed it was just another forgotten settlement, but the records say otherwise. They say no one who lived there died peacefully. Entire families went insane. Sudden dementia, unexplained deaths, sightings of figures in the woods, residents who went out to gather firewood and never returned. Even stranger, some came back days later, barefoot, covered in dirt, but with no memory of who they were. In 1901, a local doctor began documenting cases of mass hallucinations among campers nearby. They all saw the same figure, a tall man draped in a dark cloak, his face obscured by shadows. They called him the Watchman of the Cursed Land, and he only appeared when someone dared to talk about rebuilding the village. All attempts to reclaim the land failed. Buildings wouldn't last. Wood rotted too fast. Tools went missing, and the workers had nightmares before they even arrived. Some claimed to hear voices rising from the ground repeating, "The land doesn't want people anymore." Today, Dudleytown is officially private property, fenced off, patrolled, with legal warnings for trespassers. But it's not just about vandalism. Locals say bad things happen to those who get too close, and there's a pattern. Cameras stop working, watches freeze. The feeling of being watched never fades, and always comes a moment when the forest seems to stop breathing. There are no signs, no official trail, but those who walk toward it know when they've arrived, because the air changes, the light dissolves, and the silence begins to vibrate inside your body. They say there's still a stone with the names of the Dudleys carved into it with a knife, names that no longer exist in any civil records, as if the village erased even the memory of those who built it. And the strangest part, those who research the story of Dudleytown for too long start to have nightmares, and dreams that aren't nightmares. They're memories of wooden houses they've never visited, paths between trees they can describe perfectly, and a voice that says, "You used to live here. Dudleytown didn't end. It's just closed, but it still breathes, and it still remembers those who dare to speak its name." Some places push you away, others and watch, and there are those that wait, not to attack but to walk beside you, before you ever realize you were never alone on that trail. The Melonheads, the children of the forest that shouldn't exist. In southern Connecticut, between the towns of Monroe, Trumbull, and Shelton, there's a stretch of ancient forest. No fences, no warnings, but a constant feeling that someone is watching. Locals talk about small figures with thin bodies, unusually pale skin, and heads far too large for their bodies. They don't speak, they don't get close, they just watch from behind the trees and vanish the moment you try to look again. These figures are called Melonheads, and the most disturbing part isn't how they look, it's the fact that they used to be human. The story begins with a hospital, or maybe a sanatorium. No one can say for sure because the records were erased or hidden, but there was a place called Fairfield Hills Hospital, which did exist, and it treated patients with mental disorders and physical deformities. According to accounts preserved by longtime residents, a group of children with extreme hydrocephalus, abnormally enlarged heads due to fluid buildup, were kept there in secret. No families, no names, no hope of recovery. Over time, the experiments began. Extreme therapies, surgeries without anesthesia, total isolation, until one day, the hospital caught fire. or was shut down abruptly. No one knows for sure. And the children, they disappeared. In the following years, drivers on nearby dirt roads began to report small figures running through the bushes, moaning sounds and heavy breathing deep in the woods, and in more extreme cases, attacks. One teenage couple swore they were chased by 3 figures with enormous heads who hit their car with rocks and sticks, while screaming in a language that didn't sound human, but didn't seem made up either. Some theories claim the children escaped and began living in the forest, isolated, without contact, without help. Others believe no one escaped, but the forest kept what was left behind. Maybe the pain, maybe the rage, maybe a version of life that no longer knows what it means to be human. Even today, locals still report sightings, especially on hot summer nights when the forest falls completely silent, and even so, you feel you're not alone. A woman walking her dog heard something approaching, low, dragging its feet. She turned and saw, just a few feet away, a figure with its hands on its head, as if trying to hold it in place. The head was large, white, almost bald, the face expressionless. The dog barked. The creature ran, but not into the woods. It ran in circles and then vanished into the darkness itself. Maybe they're echoes of a cruel past. Maybe they're still alive. Or maybe the forest created something out of the pain it absorbed. Whatever they are, the melon heads are still there. And it seems they don't want to be found, only remembered. Some horrors grow in the forest, alone, forgotten, deformed. But others were forged in metal, with machines, with screams muffled by gears, with walls that were never cleaned of what really happened inside them. And what got trapped in there isn't human, isn't animal. It's what pain creates when no one is watching. Remington Arms Factory, the haunted factory of Bridgeport, Connecticut, one of the oldest industrial hubs on the East Coast. And amid grey buildings and forgotten avenues, still standing, is the shell of a factory that refuses to collapse. Remington Arms. From the outside, it's just concrete and broken windows, but inside, a mix of darkness, rust, and silence. Yet the silence there has weight and memory. Between 1910 and 1980, this factory produced millions of firearms and rounds of ammunition. During the wars, it worked around the clock. Hundreds of workers. Massive machines and heat, relentless heat. Accidental explosions killed dozens of workers. Some bodies were never fully recovered. Others died slowly, inhaling the lead of their own labor. But no one talked about it. They just worked, and whatever stayed behind him stayed inside. When the factory shut down, the building was abandoned, but not left empty. By the 1990s, reports began to surface. Young urban explorers would sneak in for fun, and came out changed, quiet, frightened. Some spoke of metallic screams echoing through the upper floors, even without wind. Others swore they heard machines turning on by themselves, heavy thuds, like a press in motion, even though everything had been shut off for decades. A local police officer responded to a call in 2004. A nearby resident said they saw lights turning on inside the factory in the middle of the night. The officer entered the building and heard an old song playing, like a distant record player. But when he searched, there was nothing. On the exit stairs, he felt a push. He fell, fractured his arm, and when he looked up, he saw boots, covered in oil, standing on the top step. But no one was there. Other visitors mentioned more subtle sounds, a male voice whispering, "Don't stop," a woman sobbing in the hallways, and the steady sound of footsteps with uneven weight, like someone limping. Cameras brought in by urban explorers fail on the 3rd floor. Either they record sound without video, or video without sound. And in one remarkable case, a group left the factory claiming they had spent 40 minutes inside. But the clock showed 4 hours had passed, and none of them remembered what happened between floors. Today, the factory is completely sealed off, surrounded by tall walls, protected by alarms and barbed wire. But those who live nearby still hear things. Voices at night, rhythmic banging at the same hour each night, and sometimes someone singing, a work song, old, wordless, just a whistle. Maybe it's just residue, an echo from a painful era that never ended properly. Or maybe what was created there. In the heat of the machines and the smell of gunpowder took on a form, grew hungry, and stayed. The city wants to forget, but the building is still standing, and whatever's inside knows you're listening. The White Lady of Easton, the ghost of the bridge, no one crosses in peace. Easton, Connecticut, a small quiet town almost forgotten between forests and rivers, but there among old trees and lonely roads stands a pale wooden bridge, known by locals as Emily's Bridge. It has no special signs, no warning plaque, but everyone knows. At night you don't cross that bridge slowly, and if you do, don't look in the rearview mirror. The story begins with a woman, or maybe with a broken promise, or with the silence of an empty altar. Her name was Emily. According to the oldest versions, she was a 19th century bride, abandoned by her fiancé the night before their wedding, humiliated, alone, and already wearing the white dress she had sewn with her own hands. She went to the bridge over the local stream and hanged herself with the ribbon of her gown. They say her body swung there for hours and was only found the next day when the groom showed up. Too late. Since then, the reports began, and they continue to this day. Drivers crossing the bridge say they hear metallic knocks on the car, like fingernails scraping the roof, or fists pounding on the trunk. Some smell wilted flowers, others hear a soft voice, almost a woman's whisper, saying only, "You promised." Paranormal investigation groups have spent entire nights there and recorded anomalies, magnetic interference, sudden temperature drops, audio with moans and muffled voices. In one recording, a woman's voice crying whispers, "I'm still waiting." One investigator's car, left parked on the bridge overnight, was found with faint handprints on the back window. 7 of them, perfect, as if someone had been watching a movie from the inside. Others report seeing a figure in white walking along the side of the bridge, always with her head down, but when they try to see her face, the figure disappears or turns her head, revealing no eyes at all. And even without expression, the feeling she gives off is clear. Grief, not anger. Grief frozen in time. No one lives near the bridge, and those who drive by at night don't stop. Even without knowing the story, something in the air seems to warn. This isn't just a road. It's a line between what left and what stayed behind. Emily doesn't want to scare, but she refuses to be forgotten. And maybe that's why she touches the cars, touches the glass, touches the memories, to see if, even for a second, someone looks at her with the same eyes that once promised love. Maybe one day you'll cross that bridge and see nothing, hear nothing, feel nothing, but she'll know you passed, and she'll keep the sound of your engine in the same place where that unanswered "I do" still echoes. Some ghosts come back because they lost something, others just never left. They were simply locked away and forgotten, along with the wrong books in the wrong rooms, where time doesn't enter. The black files of the University of New Haven, the locked room that was never catalogued. Universities are places of light, of reason, of knowledge, but sometimes what's been kept for too long was never meant to be read, and what isn't in the catalogue may never have been meant to be found. At the University of New Haven, Connecticut, there's a legend few students know, and even fewer dare to investigate: the existence of a room below the main basement, a door with no number, a file with no name. Older professors refer to it with nervous irony as the dead library. According to former staff and grad students, the room's existence began circulating in the 1980s. Someone found it by accident during an electrical renovation. It was a metal door hidden behind a fake masonry panel. No handle, but with fingerprints, as if it had been used a lot. Eventually, it was opened, and behind it a room with no windows, cold, with rusted iron shelves and books with no titles, no authors, no covers, typewritten documents with names crossed out, folders with old photographs, some so time-burned they'd crumble if touched, an entire journal written backward, only readable in a mirror, and even then the content made no sense. One page read, "This is not writing, it is instruction," but no one understood. Students who entered that room described strange symptoms: a sensation of pressure in the ears, a low, continuous hum, the feeling of being watched from above, and in 2 cases, sudden fainting. But the strangest part was their behavior afterward. One stopped speaking for a week. Another began writing random words on his arm, first with a pen, then with a blade. A third started drawing maps of places no one recognized, each with a single word at the center: archive. The room was locked again, but the rumors never stopped. In 1997, a professor said during a lecture, "The library still listens." Shortly after, he was removed for mental instability and institutionalized. The university never officially confirmed the room's existence, but maintenance staff admit there's a hallway that leads nowhere, but you can hear things from there, like pages turning, or someone just softly crying. Some say the books there are real, others and that they're made of things never written, but thought, dreamed, or whispered, ideas no one dared to publish, or someone did and regretted it. Today, if you ask the university about this room, they'll laugh, or say it was just an old maintenance closet, but the empty shelves are still there waiting, because the unread books haven't finished happening. Some stories are erased, others erase themselves, but there are those that return, not with words, not with ghosts, but with eyes and marks on the body or on time. The case of Billy Turner, the boy who dreamed of the Iron Place. New London, Connecticut, fall 1978. Billy Turner, 8 years old, missing. It was an ordinary afternoon. His mother went to pick him up from elementary school at 3 p.m. He wasn't there. Witnesses said he had left a few minutes earlier, walking alone without his backpack, as if he knew exactly where he was going. 3 days of searching followed. Forests, train tracks, sidewalks, basements, nothing. Then, on the morning of the 4th day, he reappeared, sitting on the back steps of his own house, barefoot, clothes clean, and a distant gaze, like he had woken from a long dream, or was still trapped in one. Billy didn't know where he had been, didn't know how he got back, didn't remember school or the missing days. But slowly he began talking about a place. He called it the Iron Place. According to his mother, he said there were lots of lights on the ceiling, but it wasn't a school or a house. It was cold, round. It smelled like mold and rust. He said there were voices, but no one spoke to him directly. They only asked questions inside his head, like thoughts that weren't his, and he kept repeating, "They knew what I dreamed about, and they put things there to see what I would do." His mother took him to a pediatrician, then to a psychologist. No signs of trauma, no signs of abuse, but then the drawings began. Hundreds of them. Circles, cables hanging from the ceiling, silhouettes of people with no mouths, and at the center, one recurring symbol, a door with faded numbers. The case caught local attention, but without evidence of kidnapping, no crime, no clues, it was shelved. The disappearance became just another scare. The boy was alive, so the story ended there, at least officially, because Billy didn't stop. He spoke of the Iron Place with more and more detail, described sounds no machine should make, lights that blinked under the skin, and a voice, and always the same, that said, "You're the only one here who can still go back." With time, Billy stopped speaking, but not drawing, and he grew up that way, with that distant look in his eyes, as if part of him had stayed in the Iron Place, waiting for the rest to return. At 17, he vanished again, this time for good. They say he left a note in a drawer which the family never made public, but one final drawing was found on his bed. 3 figures, a round room, and the same door, closed, with a single word written above it, access. The case was never solved, but among local archives and forgotten libraries it still lives, in the dreams of those who read it, and in the details only those who heard Billy's story can recognize. Maybe the place never existed, or maybe we just don't know where to look, because some spaces don't exist in the world. They live inside someone, waiting for the next one to arrive. And with that, Connecticut ends the same way it began, full of closed doors and questions that were never answered. But some of those questions, the most dangerous ones, were asked the right way. And if they reached you, It means now it's up to you to decide whether to ignore them or to dig deeper. If you made it this far, maybe you've heard more than you were supposed to. Connecticut has revealed its hidden corners, the silenced voices, the distorted memories. But now I want to hear from you. Which of these stories stuck in your head? And more importantly, which US state do you want to see in the next episode? Leave your comment below. The most requested state will be the next one unearthed. But think carefully before you type, because there are places that wake up just by being mentioned.